engineering.
Every legal and procurement team faces the same bottleneck. A new vendor needs onboarding, and that triggers a cascade of risk assessments, security questionnaires, privacy impact assessments, SOC2 report reviews, insurance certificate verification, contract review. The current process: a risk analyst sends the questionnaire. The vendor responds, often weeks later, often incompletely. The analyst reads every response, cross-references against internal security requirements, reviews the SOC2 report line by line, and produces a risk rating. One analyst, one vendor at a time, sequential, manual, and fundamentally unscalable. Off-the-shelf tools help with workflow automation, sending questionnaires, tracking completion, providing external risk signals. But the core analytical step, evaluating control adequacy against your specific requirements and producing a calibrated risk rating, still depends on one model or one analyst reading everything in a single pass. And a single pass collapses every risk dimension into one generic score. Medium risk in data security with access to personal health information is categorically different from medium risk in operational resilience for a non-critical service. What if the risk assessment system deployed parallel specialized AI agents, a data security agent, a privacy agent, an operational resilience agent, a financial stability agent, a regulatory compliance agent, each evaluating the vendor against their specific risk domain simultaneously, then synthesizing into a calibrated composite risk score that reflects your risk appetite and vendor categorization? Multi-agent domain-specific risk assessment is architecturally different. Phase 1. Vendor classification. Before any risk evaluation begins, the system classifies the vendor by category, data access level, system criticality, and regulatory implications. A cloud infrastructure provider handling personal health information triggers a different agent configuration and different risk tolerances than a catering vendor with no data access. Phase 2. Parallel domain-specific assessment. Based on that classification, the system deploys as many specialized AI risk agents as the vendor requires, each focused exclusively on its domain. A data security agent, a privacy agent, an operational resilience agent, a financial stability agent, a regulatory compliance agent, additional agents as the vendor profile demands, all running simultaneously. The AI data security agent evaluates encryption standards, access control maturity, vulnerability management cadence, incident response capabilities, and penetration testing frequency, cross-referencing questionnaire responses with SOC2 findings and identifying inconsistencies. The AI privacy agent evaluates data processing scope, cross-border transfers, sub-processor management, and data retention practices. The AI operational resilience agent evaluates business continuity, disaster recovery, RTO and RPO commitments, and geographic redundancy. The AI financial stability agent evaluates funding history, customer concentration risk, revenue trajectory, and going concern signals. The AI regulatory compliance agent evaluates applicable certifications, SOC2, Type 2, ISO 27001, HIT Rust, PCI DSS, their scope, recency, and any enforcement history. Every risk dimension evaluated in parallel by a dedicated AI agent, not sequentially by one person trying to hold all domains in working memory. Phase 3. Calibrated risk synthesis. An AI synthesis layer produces a composite risk rating that preserves dimensional granularity, not just medium risk, but data security high, driven by access control gaps, privacy low, strong data processing agreement and sub-processor controls, operational medium, single region deployment for a mission-critical service, financial low, well-funded and diversified revenue, compliance low, current SOC2 Type 2 with clean findings. Overall, medium-high, driven primarily by data security and operational resilience concerns. Recommended, conditional approval with specific remediation requirements on access management and geographic redundancy. Every rating traces to specific questionnaire responses and audit findings. Every remediation requirement includes language your procurement team can insert directly into the vendor contract. The output: a risk assessment dashboard where every rating is domain-specific, calibrated to the vendor category, and actionable. Not a generic risk score. A dimensional risk profile with specific findings, specific evidence, and specific remediation paths. Vendor documentation flows in. A classified, parallel, synthesized risk assessment flows out. What takes a risk analyst days, reading questionnaire responses, cross-referencing SOC2 reports, mapping regulatory requirements, the parallel AI architecture completes in minutes, with more consistency, more depth, and fully traceable reasoning across every risk domain. When you subscribe to an off-the-shelf vendor risk platform, you get workflow automation and external risk signals, but the core analytical intelligence is generic. Their risk model was not built for your industry, your vendor categories, or your risk tolerances. When Taylor Legal Engineering builds a risk assessment workflow for your team, you get domain-specific analytical intelligence calibrated to your vendor portfolio, your regulatory environment, and your risk appetite. 5 design principles. Auditable. Every risk rating traces to specific questionnaire responses, SOC2 findings, and regulatory provisions. Human-controlled. The system assesses and recommends. Your risk and procurement teams decide. Domain-specific. Dimensional ratings across security, privacy, operations, financial, and compliance. Portfolio-tuned. Risk tolerances and evaluation criteria configured for your vendor types and your regulatory environment. Integrated. Connects to your vendor management system and GRC platform. You own the risk models. You own the assessment logic. You own the data. This was Episode 5, Third-Party Risk. Taylor Legal Engineering builds custom multi-agent risk assessment architectures that transform how organizations evaluate and monitor vendor risk. Every engagement, assessment, design, build, handoff, fixed scope, fixed price, you own the deliverables. Taylor Legal Engineering. We don't sell risk management software. We build risk assessment infrastructure. Let's talk about what we can build for your team.